Assalamu alaikum. Warmest welcome to all audience and participants from Turkey and different jurisdictions and sister brothers. Considering the time limitation, this will be a nutshell, quick, let's say, panel with our distinguished guests. From our scholars and our, let's say, seniors at the previous panel, we got the general understanding about the issues. Now we will, in this panel, go to the future and what could be utilized and discussed from different perspectives for the necessary transformation. So the panel will focus on transformation and future promises of Islamic finance in the last century with a global perspective. I would like to start with my brother, Umar Oseni, Mr. Umar. He's now Secretary General at the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Arbitration Center, which is based in Istanbul. And it's an international organization. But as Turkey, we are hosting this international organization. Umar, warmest welcome for the panel. And from your perspective, your academician, your practitioner, and for your regulatory perspectives, we would like to listen about transforming landscape of Islamic finance from local to international landscape and development with the perspective and understanding of time and situation conditions. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fatma Hanim, and I'd like to begin by saying Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. And it's really great to be here. And of course, I'm based here in Istanbul, though I traveled all the way from the European side to the Asian side. Now, having listened to, distinguished professors, the ISDB award-winning, professors who spoke just now, setting the scene for the further discussion relating to transformation. I think they have touched on some of the things I would like to say. But very quickly, when it comes to transforming the Islamic finance industry, again, I'll speak from both the academic and the industry perspective. I've been in both areas. First things first, I guess we have to go back to the basics. Now, when we try to kind of, transform, before you can talk about the future, we have to kind of backtrack or take a step backwards and actually look at where are we coming from, where are we, and where do we hope to be. Now, you've listened to distinguished kind of presentations relating to the debt, the debt size, how do we kind of resolve crisis, in the industry itself. Now, one thing I would like to say is that first things first, the nature of modern Islamic banks, of course, there were no Islamic banks, at the very early stage of Islam. You had Baytul Mal, yes, but it was not like the modern Islamic bank we have today. But again, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with modern Islamic banks. I mean, as kind of a system, basically, operating, within a conventional environment. We have to admit that. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it generally. Of course, we have a lot of challenges. You had a discussion of the importance of liquidity. Yeah, we've managed liquidity, a lot in the past. Yeah, this remains a key issue. But again, looking at the structure only, if you look at when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came in the early days, products were there already. When I say products, I mean some of the products we have nowadays, like Mudaraba and Musharaka, they've been used for, hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. But again, Islam came to kind of, reform the system. So again, I'm speaking for now from the ideal perspective, the ideal system. Now, Islam came, you had verses coming, revelations were coming. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was receiving, La taqula walakum bainakum bil batil, don't eat up the property amongst yourself in falsehood. All these directions were coming, apart from the verses prohibiting riba, in the Quran. Now, the next thing you had basically is for the Prophet actually to implement this. And again, we had a lot of historical precedents, which we call the Sunnah. I always call them historical legal precedents, these are the Sunnah itself. So you had a practical kind of application of these principles. So starting from that perspective, what can we learn nowadays in terms of transforming the local industry towards global reforms when it comes to the Islamic finance industry? That's the theme of this panel, so that's where I'm going to start from, but I just wanted us to kind of, take a step backwards and see where are we coming from and looking at the ideal system established by the Quran. Now, you've heard a lot of distinguished Islamic economists, setting the stage in their writings. We have a lot of publications talking about, partnership contracts. In fact, the modern Islamic finance industry, if you read the earlier articles in the 80s and books in the 80s, they talk about PLS, the, profit loss sharing, describing the Islamic finance system, which was a kind of a beautiful kind of framework, from a theoretical perspective. Now, after that, you had a lot of reforms. Of course, the Tabun Haji in Malaysia. You had some other reforms across the world. The ISDB was established. You had the Islamic Finance or Islamic Banking Act of Malaysia. The Takaful Act came the next year, and other reforms were happening. Now, gradually, by 1990, what did you have? You have AOFI being set up. Again, that tells you that the local efforts were gradually moving to global kind of efforts. Now, the question here is, how do we kind of go ahead to transform our local kind of, for me, there is no perfect system. And as you've heard earlier, even if you have a perfect system and you have bad managers, definitely you will still have challenges. Personally, I have managed, I'll say, some organizations in the past, and I've been involved in structuring some of the sukuk. You see a lot of challenges. Sometimes some of us come out to criticize Sharia scholars. I'll tell you, they are doing a lot of job. We had a meeting just for one product. We met for 8 hours. I was sitting as a CEO, coordinating the meeting, and we had to go through clause by clause, for that extent, looking at both the Sharia and the legal aspect, even though it was supposed to be a Sharia kind of Sharia meeting. So they are doing a lot. Now, those who structure these products, the products are being structured by mostly the DCM teams. Now, the question here is, how knowledgeable are they when it comes to Islamic finance? Well, I'll leave that question open for now. But again, what we've seen is that we needed to train and retrain our staff, on basic principles of Islamic finance. I mean, those involved in the DCM. So this is a challenge we've seen. Because ultimately, when you talk about the Islamic finance system or Islamic finance industry, we have to look at it from both the kind of the macro and the micro level. I'm talking more from the micro level now. Within an Islamic bank, what do you have? How do things operate? There's a need, again, for those who represent the Islamic bank here, and of course, the regulators, the central banks, to ensure that training and retraining, I think that's extremely important. I'm happy we have the TKBB here, this Deputy Secretary General. They are doing a lot in that direction. It's extremely important to train those who actually, even when you finish structuring the products, let's assume they are acceptable under the Sharia. They've passed through the Sharia filter. Now, how do you offer the products? That's another challenge we've seen. And I think this aspect also needs to be addressed when it comes to transforming the industry itself. Of course, people have talked about fintech, that fintech is very important. But before I go into fintech, let's look at financial inclusion. How do we actually provide products that will promote financial inclusion? And this is where you've had experts of Islamic social finance developing some of these products. How do we benefit from the Islamic social finance products? Yes, the products are being developed. You even talked about sukuk that are based on waqf. These are excellent products, but do we reach that ordinary man on the street? Or our products, are they just wholesale products for the rich? So these are things we need to kind of explore when it comes to financial inclusion. Financial inclusion is extremely, extremely important. So let's look into that, and I think this is something we need to promote when it comes to transforming. Now, how do you promote this? People have suggested that we should look into fintech, or what they call Islamic fintech. Islamic fintech is beautiful, but I personally do not like to use that word, that phrase, Islamic fintech. It's like, an Islamic iPhone. I don't know how to describe it, how Islamic is my iPhone, basically. So, but I leave that to you, and I've explained this in my introductory chapter of my book on fintech and Islamic finance. I refuse to use the word, the phrase Islamic fintech. We had this debate with the publishers. They really wanted to market the book. Let's let it be Islamic fintech. I said, no, fintech and Islamic finance. So that's what we did. I told you, if you want the book from me, then it has to be this. I had to insist. So fintech is extremely important nowadays, but again, it's what you put, you get again. So let's actually consider the fintech structures we have. And I've personally experienced one of the leading fintech platforms we have, even for Islamic crowdfunding, that has defaulted. And you call it Islamic fintech. Islam is perfect. So when you put a label of Islam into something, then you have to ensure it's a perfect system. Then I'm going to accept that from you. But from the branding and marketing perspective, of course, it's always good to hear Islamic fintech, to say Islamic fintech here, to distinguish whatever we are doing from the conventional. But again, if we have to do that, we have to ensure that it's a perfect system. There shouldn't be room for defaults. And we've had defaults, actually, in some of them. But again, these are not really pronounced. So you're not going to hear this in the news openly. And apart from that, I think it's also kind of important to look at the importance of, people talk about equity-based products. This is important. I always support this kind of argument, and I think we had this also in the earlier keynote speech from our professor. This is important, but again, debt is also something that is not haram. And as you heard in the last panel, debt actually, yes, the challenge may be the size and the impact on the economy itself. But debt itself, and I always say it very openly, I say, hey, the longest verse of the Quran is on debt. Yeah, Ayatul Dain. Yeah, the longest verse of the Quran talks about debt, you know. But again, how do you, when you actually go for this, how do you actually conclude a transaction? This is explained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah. So you have it there. Yeah, either to the young to be dating, then the principles continue. That if you enter into a debt, you know, a deferred debt, then make sure the legal documentation is important. Now, legal documentation, actually, being a financial lawyer, is something that is extremely very important. I mean, this is something Allah has explained to us. So when we talk about transactions itself, we talk about products, we talk about structures. Now, transactions themselves, it's always good to get it right when it comes to legal documentation. The challenge we have is we do not have standard legal documentation for many transactions. IIFM has been doing a lot to actually issue some of this, documentation. We've actually seen some of them for Murabaha. They've been used across the industry. You have the collateralized, Murabaha transaction documentation. These are beautiful documentation, but again, we actually need to standardize more documentation, and this will help in the product structuring, particularly when we have DCM team. DCM means debt capital market teams who structure most of the sukuk you see here and there. When you see some of those transactions, sometimes you feel, no, this is not actually what it should be. Yes, you have the dominance of the conventional industry, of course, and you just have to fit into it by all means. You need to force the Islamic finance industry to comply with, some of these rules. We talk about the Basel regulation, particularly Basel 3, the LCR, NSFR ratios. You just have to force, the Islamic finance to comply with these regulations, unfortunately. And by doing that, in most cases, you end up not even seeing, equity-based transactions. So mostly will be debt because of all the haircuts that are involved, when it comes to debt-based. So these are different challenges we face. Now, going forward, how do we transform? Now, I may not be able to give you the answers today. I'm sorry about that. But again, we have to live with what we have and continue to improve. I know AOFI just came up with, I think, standard 62, the Sharia standard, which is actually creating some, controversy in the industry. Here, in terms of the asset-based and asset-backed sukuk, yes, I've been an advocate of asset-backed sukuk all my life. But unfortunately, all the sukuk I did up till today, I personally structured, they are asset-based. Now, with limited records, So again, this is the challenge when you work within a conventional industry. The regulators, of course, they have to comply with the Basel regulation and others. So we are forced to comply with this for now. Now, asset-backed transactions or sukuk, people are saying it's not possible. I'll tell you it's possible. It depends on how you structure it. If you structure it properly, it's possible. I look at the transaction where you have gold as the underlying assets. You have a lot of countries across the world, some in Africa, who have excess gold kind of reserves. This can be used to back. When I say gold, I mean raw gold. Yeah. So how do you structure it? Again, we have to go into the aspects of, pricing and others. Because again, anybody who buys your sukuk must ensure that he's going to get a return. Now, how do we maximize the return? That takes you back to structuring. How do you structure the product? Apart from structuring it to be Sharia compliant, we have to ensure that it's also conventionally viable. This is the value proposition. How do we motivate, how do we encourage Muslims to actually go for Sharia compliant products, Islamic products? We have to ensure we do it properly. Of course, the quality has to be there, it has to be Sharia compliant, and it has to be conventionally viable and also competitive in terms of the rates. Benchmarking is another thing. Yes, a lot of projects have been done about benchmarking, and I believe we should gradually move to the Islamic, yield curve, which we don't have up till today. Yes, in my previous role, we were trying to develop the Islamic yield curve, back then. But again, we need a lot of data. We started issuing short-term sukuk every month, and we increased the frequency. We increased the tenures up to 12 months. We got the second rating. But one thing actually we couldn't do is to get an update, because we moved from what you call the agreed bid to competitive bid for our sukuk, which were issuing for liquidity management back then in Malaysia. So we were still trying to gather enough data to be able to build the Islamic yield curve, which is very important ultimately. But again, you still have some kind of black swan events we always talk about, where the market itself is disrupted temporarily. That actually affects the yield curve. We had a COVID-19 in April 2020 also, and you'll see the spike. I don't have the graphs here for you, but again, the spike actually had to go up. We had to pay more to sukuk holders because we, in a way, mirror the conventional benchmarks. So it's good to have, in terms of going forward, to have the Islamic yield curve, but again, I think it's going to take some time. A lot has been done. Thomson Reuters has, they did a project many years ago. Other projects have been done. ISDB has been involved in some projects to have an Islamic yield curve, but none has really seen the light of the day, I have to say that. So I think this is an aspect that is still possible. But again, I always tell people, because I heard an issue relating to price discovery of some of the products, including sukuk earlier. The IILM sukuk, even though I don't speak for IILM today, but I think it actually helps in price discovery. When we moved to the competitive pricing, one thing we discovered was that it's always very difficult for us to even determine the price. We only give the pricing guidance to the market, but sometimes the final price goes above or even below the pricing guidance. So I always tell people at that time, I say, hey, this short-term sukuk is Sharia compliant. It's really, really in accordance with price discovery principles. Islam allows the market to determine the price in a way, compared to, the sovereign sukuk that have been issued. So these are just some very quick, issues I wanted to raise when it comes to transforming the Islamic finance industry in terms of what should we be looking into when it comes to the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar Rushni. Yeah, this reminds me the program in Malaysia, obviously, Hojam, you will rewind, in Global Islamic Finance Forum, considering the richness of those participants. This is an advice to ICAM team. Maybe you may organize roundtable sessions specific to capital markets, product development, and some discussions with experts and also the participants, because always, we are, due to time consideration, we are skipping Q&A sessions. However, the participants kicking the discussions, but we need to take it further with some dialogues, some, let's say, reports or some suggestions for the next. As industry practitioners, Umar just flourished all, let's say, experience, transaction level, markets level. And thank you very much for your sharing. Now, I want to come to Dr. Tarık Akın. Dr. Tarık Akın, head of the Department of Participation Finance at Finance Office. And considering your active dialogue with the market, with the students, with the companies, we do really wonder what are the mega trends in Muslim world and how can Islamic finance properly respond to the ongoing and emerging trends. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, it's a great pleasure and honor to be with the esteemed panelists and Fatma. Thank you for providing this panel. In discussing the future, the promises and the potential of Islamic finance in the future, I think we should be fully cognizant of the megatrends that is shaping and will shape the Muslim world. By megatrends, I mean long run and slowly evolving phenomena in economics, demographics, technology, and institutions that do not change overnight. They are important. We cannot recognize their effect in our daily lives, but they directly or indirectly affect everything in the long run, at least. So I think the market share, the prospective and future market share, and the future promises of Islamic finance is directly relevant to these megatrends. Of course, there are many megatrends that are shaping the world as well as the Muslim world today, but I want to focus on 4 of such important megatrends, namely the shrinking middle class in the OIC region, as well as the increasing wealth inequality. Secondly, demographic change in the global Muslim population. Thirdly, urbanization. And finally, climate change. Before delving into these 4 megatrends, I want to highlight that the Participation Finance Strategy document, which was launched in 2022, also considered these megatrends in its action items. So let me start with the first megatrend, the shrinking middle class in the OIC region. Of course, this is a global trend, but it is happening in the Muslim world at a deeper and faster pace. Maybe 40 to 50 years ago, most of the OIC member countries belonged to developing or less developing world. But especially over the last 30 years, everything has changed now. We can clearly observe there is a noticeable divergence in wealth and even in human development, both across the countries and within the countries. Now we can see the high inequality is a global norm affecting both of the OIC and non-OIC region. Of course, there are many well-developed, high-growing countries in the OIC region, such as the GCC, Turkey, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Moreover, there are also high net worth and well-educated Muslim minorities in the West and many other developed countries. On the other hand, on the other side of the mirror, there are also many other countries and people who live under abject poverty, war, and conflict. Today, just to give you an example, almost half of the OIC member countries are under the category of the least developed countries. This is, I think, a change, an important change among the OIC countries. So, just to sum up, there is a divergence in wealth and human development in both between or across and within countries. What are the implications of this megatrend on Islamic finance? As I told you, there are wealthy countries, high-growing countries, also wealthy Muslim individuals living in these countries, as well as Muslim minorities in the developed countries. So these wealthy and well-educated Muslims have changed their investment preferences, especially over the last 30 years. They are looking for more responsible investment opportunities now. They are question, or they are questioning where their money is going to. They are more prone to using capital markets, wealth management, and professional managed investment funds, instead of just investing in gold, real estate, opening bank deposit in Islamic banks. This is also important. They are also questioning, as global citizens, how the Islamic finance or Islamic financial sector is working. What kind of fatwas are given by the fuqaha, and what products the Islamic financial institutions are providing to themselves, to them, more correctly. So this is a reality for the one side of the Muslim community. On the other side, in the least developed countries, or in countries under abject poverty, war and conflict, they even cannot open bank accounts. Yani financial inclusion is not a matter for them, but they are looking for social assistance on a global scale, not only from their own citizens. To encapsulate, given the divergence among these two big groups, now we can see the increasing importance of capital markets, social finance, and fintech, because you have to collect funds or invest funds or collect social assistance on a global scale. It cannot just be done just through banking system. And I think in the future, regarding the first megatrend, we can see a loss of relative importance of traditional Islamic banking in the global Islamic financial system. The second megatrend, please, there are a lot of things to talk on. Just warn me about timing. I will inshallah comply with the timing constraints. The second megatrend is demographic change in the Muslim population. Let me share some statistics with you. The world's Muslim population is expected to increase to 2.2 billion in 2030, an increase from 1.9 today. Under current trends, Muslims will make up more than 1/4 of the total world population by 2030. In a longer horizon, the data becomes more interesting. From now on to 2060, the worldwide population of Muslims is expected to increase by more than 45%. And Muslims will grow as twice as the rest of the world. Muslims are the world's, still, they are the world's youngest population, with a median age of 23 as compared to the median age of 28 for the rest of the world. But given the high fertility rate, the Muslims will by far continue to become the world's youngest population. It means population share of the young Muslims in total Muslim population will increase. Still, it is high, but we expect the share will increase. And I think there are also important implications of this demographic change. The figures I shared with you indicate that there will be an increasing generation gap between the young Muslims and their elder peers. And this generation gap will amplify with technology and globalization. It means the worldview and the mindset of the young Muslims who are the prospective consumer base of the Islamic finance will be different from their elder peers as well. I think they will not be satisfied with the current business model of Islamic finance. They will even question the how to say Sharia governance aspect of Islamic finance. Yani it will be quite more difficult to explain to them the let's say the necessity, ضرورية, in you know decisions or fatwas. They will also, these young masses will also consider responsibility, social assistance, and sustainability in their investment decisions. And also, as a result of these aforementioned, you know, changes, I think they will also ask for a new business model in Islamic finance. Okay, okay. Also, we expect more entrepreneurs and startups will emerge from these young generations. So they will ask for different investment models based on more risk-sharing finance, I guess. So again, I expect new business models like crowdfunding, peer-to-peer finance, investment funds based on risk-sharing will increase in size and importance. Third, the urbanization. Let me finalize very fast. So, because I want to give some I want to share some numbers with you. There is a global, you know, shift in urbanization from developed to developing countries. According to CESRIC, OIC members as a group are urbanizing faster than the non-OIC developing countries by hosting around 22% of the total global urban population. This requires mass investment in infrastructure and social finance-related investments. But it is also a big problem how the governments, OIC governments, can meet these increasing infrastructure financing needs. There will, of course, an increasing investment gap. I think from the lens of Islamic finance, especially the governments should look for ways how to use risk-sharing finance. Also, how to attract retail investors for their infrastructure projects. And final, climate change. It is, you know, a hot topic in even Islamic finance. So I guess all of us know about SDGs and climate change. And these will be the last mega trend. They will affect the future of Islamic finance. The Islamic financial industry should come up ways to invest more in climate-related and sustainable-related investments. Hope I finished within my
Thank you. Thank you, Tarık Hocam. Really, thank you very much. Yeah, from the end, I mean, you know, the fifth trend, ESG, sustainable finance, alignment with Islamic finance, very popular trend. But what is critical, you enhance our mind with what are the common mega trends with the others. So thank you very much for this quick lecturing about it. Now I come to the Professor Dr. Mehmet Saraç from Istanbul University. You know, in the bankers actually developing products. In the association, we are conducting workshop over the product development. But considering the richness of this environment, I would like to ask Professor, what are the factors affecting product development processes in Islamic finance institutions? Especially, I want to conjunct the second question, financial technologies and advisory board decisions, how they affect those product development processes. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for inviting me for this distinguished audience, and I thank the organizers, and inshallah this panel will be fruitful for everybody, all audience. First, there are reasons to be happy, and there are reasons to probably worry, but inshallah we will achieve our goals as we our intentions. Now, the title, the theme of the panel, transformation. So we have aims, goals, and expectations. Now, the main ultimate goal, our ultimate goal should transform the finance economy. But of course, I mean, the Islamic finance is our special field to study. So we start with the transforming the Islamic finance. Inshallah, this will lead to transformation in the whole entire economy, both in academic side and the industrial side. Well, we have been discussed and we talked about this search for this transformation, conveying the finance and economy to more humane finance and economy, especially after the crisis. At the same time, there are some developments and rhetoric such as the SDG, sustainability, environment, being considered to environment, the governance, etc. So basically, we may talk about two main motivations behind the transformation. One is these disruptions due to the conventional interest-based manner and the technological developments, innovations, especially in IT. The world embraced actually or started to be interested in Islamic finance, especially after the crisis. They have witnessed, they have realized that their model, their manner doesn't work. So they embraced, to some extent, they embraced Islamic finance and economy to some extent. Meanwhile, we see these frequently asked questions. So I just quickly 5 questions. 1, how Islamic is Islamic financial institutions? Does they really reflect the implemented tenets, the fundamentals of true Islamic economy? Or does it only a replication, the kind of adoption of the conventional system? 2, does Islamic finance show the best practice of ESG? 3, does Islamic finance show the best practice of efficient management? 4, what are the factors that affect the financial engineering and product development in Islamic finance? 5, does Islamic finance show the best and right practice of fintech? What is the acceptance of technology? What is the use of financial technology? Now let's address all these issues and try to develop ideas to convey the true Islamic finance to a more promising future. Now, actually, it might be better to remember the trajectory, past trajectory of Islamic finance. But anyway, I will skip that because it started. The institutionalization started in 60s, early 60s, maybe through the end of the 50s and 60s, like Mittel Bank by Ahmed Al-Najjar. Then we know the story, but now, I would like to share a couple of research. I direct this research and with my PhD students. One is regarding the factors that affects the financial engineering and product developments in Islamic financial institutions. We collected data from Turkey, Malaysia, CIS, Malaysia, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabistan, and even Australia through interviews and questionnaires. Well, we have interesting findings. The factors that affect the financial engineering product developments, what are they? The findings highlighted while the Sharia Supervisory Board, strategy and planning of Islamic financial institutions, legal and regulatory framework, pricing of new product and the financial performance is positively related. So they have positive impact on the new product of the development process. The Maqasid Sharia and the tenets of Islamic economy do not have significant impact. So the ideal Islamic economy, the idea of Islamic economy, actually, unfortunately, doesn't function as the determining factor. Now, what is the question here? How come Maqasid and Islamic economy do not have the determining role while Sharia board have the impact on the product development process? So the board is effective, they have the effect on the product development process, but at the same time, the Maqasid, the Sharia, and tenets of Islam don't play the determining role. We may answer this question like we know all the limitations. Limitations of judicial system, financial regulations, competition in the market, and the social perceptions and behaviors. Basically, we may call it status quo. Sharia boards, under these certain conditions, the Sharia boards cannot emphasize the ideal maqasid and tenets of Islamic economy. Instead, they try to find contracts in the Sharia that fit to products designed by the bankers under the impacts of other factors. So they just implement the template. I mean, they just follow the conventional templates. They try to find a place for each product in Sharia contract law. Now, so our task can be defined for the Islamic financial universe for the future. Sharia boards should be equipped with the power or ability to play a more determinant, creative role in financial engineering and product development based on maqasid and tenets of Islamic economy. So the system should open the way for the Sharia boards really be more creative, develop the products based on the real, true Islamic economy and the tenets of Islamic economy and maqasid Sharia. As for the fintech, especially in IT, world of Islamic finance are not behind the conventional side. We can say that in Islamic finance, I mean today we witness that the financial technology is used by the Islamic finance world. However, just like the case of financial engineering, developments in the fintech are also subject to Sharia assessment and filtration. As I mentioned, there's another research under my supervision. This research focuses on the impact of Islamic economy on the acceptance process of financial technology. Now, this research is based on a theory called acceptance of technology theory. So this paper basically analyzing what is the impact of Islamic economic approach, which plays a moderator role in this model. What is the impact of Islamic economy on the factors that lead to accept and use financial technology through 5 factors? What are these 5 factors according to the theory? 1, expected performance. 2, ease of use. 3, social impact. We may define it as herd behavior. 4, support or assistance service provided by the technology company. And 5, perceived risks. Now, our hypothesis, according to our hypothesis, the Islamic approach has the positive impact on expected performance, ease of use, assistance service. And we expect the Islamic factor, Islamic economy, should have a negative impact on the social impact, meaning herd behavior, and the perceived risk. So basically, what is the implication of this model? In case of adopting the Islamic approach, the power of the following reasons to accept fintech will increase. Which factors? Performance, ease of use, assistance. So if we embrace the Islamic approach in this model, people will be using, or people will adopt, accept, use, embrace the technology due to their performance, ease of use, and assistance. But if the Islamic economy will be effective, the herd behavior and perceived risk will be reduced. I believe that the development in fintech should be making easier to implement the ideal Islamic finance based on maqasid and the real economy, Islamic economy. Well, I mean, the development in technology, really, I think this development in technology is an advantage. So we should take the advantage of financial fintech, the developments in the technology, to implement the true Islamic finance, real, based on the maqasid. For instance, as an example, I may give for instance, there is the implementation or practice of real murabaha has some cumbersome, it cannot be implemented due to its bureaucracy, paperwork, too many paperwork, and the increase in the taxation. So I think the financial technology will ease this, will reduce the bureaucracy of this implementation practice of the true, real Islamic contracts. Yes, so finally, well, we will be talking about transforming Islamic finance. Inshallah, the ultimate goal is transforming the real, the whole economic system and the financial system. Thank you. That's all for this.
Thank you very much, Mehmet Hocam. Yeah, considering the rich portfolio of student portfolio of Mehmet Hocam, we listened from live studies at the academia and his rich perspective about the issues in the industry. I would like to give a few minutes to Umar because he wished to share some final words with your good self, and then we will go for the lunch.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you for your patience. I know I'm standing between you and your lunch. I just have some what you call takeaways, quick takeaways, from my own point of view, based on my humble experience in the academia and as well as the industry. The first point actually relates to, Islamic finance product development, whether we are mimicking the conventional industry. This is something I've read in many articles, and I've had this in almost every Islamic finance conference I attend. Are we mimicking? Yes. Is mimicking wrong? Nope. It's acceptable, provided you follow the Sharia filters, and they are actually vetted by qualified Sharia experts. Takeaway number 2. Islamic finance has to consider maqasid, and this is something we have also seen in many articles and literature. This is right, and I actually endorse this approach. It's a good argument, but one thing we need to note is that, to be honest, I have structured products in the past, being a lawyer as well as, sukuk structurer. Maqasid is actually inherently part of the process. It has to be considered. And when Sharia scholars actually approve these products, I tell you, they actually consider maqasid Sharia. I'm talking from strictly practical perspective. I've seen this live, and I've been involved in the process. Number 3. We always talk about sustainability, the climate change, and there's this reference on SDGs. I've done a lot of work on SDGs as well. SDGs are very important. Of course, 2030 is just around the corner. But one thing we need to note is that we have to be cautious in our approach when we address issues relating to the SDGs. Again, there are issues relating to LGBT rights and all these when it comes to well-being. We have to be serious about it. We have to agree that it's not everything you have there that is Islamic. So as much as possible, when we actually talk about adoption of SDG by Islamic banks and all these, let's be cautious. Number 4, and the last point, benchmarking with conventional finance, in terms of using conventional benchmarks. Is this wrong? The answer is nope. because you're actually benchmarking the price basically when it comes to structuring of Islamic finance product. Do we just stay using that? Nope. Can we do better? Of course, yes. If it's available, why not? Let's adopt it. Thank you.
Katılım finansın son yüzyıldaki dönüşümü ve gelecek vaadi küresel bakış başlıklı oturuma Fatma Çınar hanımefendi moderatörlük yaptılar. Panelistlerimiz Doktor Tarık Akın, Doktor Umar Oseni ve Profesör Doktor Mehmet Saraç'tı. Her birine ayrı ayrı teşekkürlerimizi arz ediyoruz.